Hey guys, it's your boy Kenny Boulder, and I really ever do these kind of videos just because, I'm pretty shy about my 40k nerdom, but I decided that, we're near the end of one of the, in my opinion, the greatest sagas ever told with Warhammer 40k's Siege of Terra / Horus Heresy novels. You can see literally in the back right here, I have all the novels right there, but I just want to give my thoughts and my opinions on The Death and the End, Volume 2 by Dan Abnett. Because I've been reading this stuff for a long time. I've been reading this stuff since I was literally in 8th grade in like 2007. And now I'm like a late 20-some-year-old guy who still reads these books. And this has been an amazing experience. I love 40k, I love the lore, this was a big book. And I'm glad they gave Dan 3 novels to basically cram everything together. So, obviously a big fan. Been reading them for a while. I have over 100 plus novels from the Black Library. And a lot of folks like that. A lot of folks want to ask me questions like, hey man, like, what's your favorite Legion? What's your thoughts? What's your opinion on the 40k verse? And this is my response to that, because I've not been that much making that content anymore. But I just sat down. I finally finished this in 2 weeks. This guy is a beast, and I am a huge fan of it. And I could not set this book down just because it was been so incredible. I love Volume Part 1. I got Volume Part 2. Immediately came in and started reading the day after, like November 8th, I think I got it. So finished it last night and decided I want to make this video while I had some of the thoughts and opinions in my brain. Long story short, big fan. This is going to be a spoiler video, so everyone knows what's going to happen, like, we all know the end of the Horus Heresy, but it is important to mention that there's a lot of spoilers in this video, so if you don't want spoilers from Volume Part 2, just turn this video off, come back another time. Anyway, so obviously one big thing I have to mention is that everywhere I went, people were like, damn, that's the book you're reading? I literally sat in an airplane. But actually, no. So I was going, traveling to DC. And as I'm leaving to DC, I sit down next to this guy with my book. And this guy's like, no way. Is that what I think it is? And I'm like, yeah, man. You read 40K? And he's like, yes. So when I was traveling to DC, I met another fella. His name was Travis, I think? Darren's been a couple weeks now, and we just bonded over it, So when you talk about like the world's connecting and like unifying fans, this guy was also a fellow lore master. He usually reads his books on like a Kindle or like a like a little virtual device, and I'm like, dude, I gotta read it hard copy. And he's like, no way, how'd you get the book? And I'm like, I pre-ordered like months ago, and we spent the whole flight talking about lore. So I think that was like one cool thing about this series, this book, is that the people you meet along the way and folks you basically bond over and talk about it. And it's like, hey, what's your favorite Legion? What's your favorite Primarch? What moments made you go, whoa? And we just talk about the whole flight. So just want to mention that. It was a great time, man. And so anyway, I love this novel. This was an incredible novel. And long story short, I feel like, we don't want to talk about the siege, the war, the Dark King. There's so much that happened, and I guess the biggest reveals in the journey of getting there, with all of Terra, the Vengeful Spirit, like all of Terra, the palace is all converging together, and that's just crazy, man. The fact that time has stopped for this one day, this one moment, and at the end of Volume Part 1, we had this moment where Robert Rubuti Goloman is like, hey brother, I'm on my way. I'm gonna be there in a day. But then in Volume Part 2, we just realized time has stopped. Nothing is going forward. And I think one scene that really captures that is when Constant Valdor, Captain General of the Custodes, and his, fellow Custodes are in the, I guess they're in this loop. They're in this like black, like spooky, like living thing where it's all creepy crawlers, and he's just killing demons left and right, and time is like basically stopped. He's like, every moment we open it is like, it's 48 seconds into the fight, 49, 51, and like they're there for basically years fighting against all these demons. And I guess one big thought right now is that I thought that was pretty neat. Rogaldorn, he's, you know, I'm gonna be real, he's one of my favorite Primarchs. I'm not gonna tell you which one. Is like, I mean, he's easily top 3. Rogaldorn's top 3. He basically is like stuck in the desert for like centuries. And I love the fact that he basically, like, I guess Horus decided to basically give each of the, so at the end of part 1, you know, sorry, let me travel back. You got the Emperor, you got Sanguinus, Rogaldorn, and Canson Veldor all going to the Vengeful Spirit. And Horus basically has like a trap where each of them gets kind of stuck in like a different kind of separate realm of sorts. And, you know, Constant Valdor gets to be with the bird guys, you know, all the bird people, the bird creatures, for whatever reason. And he just learns a bunch of stuff because his spear learns names. And then I thought it was kind of funny that Rogaldorn is like stuck in a desert. He's just like in a desert for like forever. And then you have like Khorne just like telling him, whispering in his ears, like, "Hey man, you should definitely, you know, embrace Khorne and blood for the blood god. Blood for what, bro?" And I thought it was kind of funny that all Rogaldorn did was just troll. Like, he was just trolling. He just wandered around this giant wall. And literally, like, every time, you know, because Khorne's whole gimmick is you kill everything and all things for the blood god. And Rogaldorn's like, "Hey man, I'm going to tell you about just and unjust wars. I'm going to tell you about killing civilians is not permissible." And that's just like trolling, subtle trolling. He did it for like centuries. So that was pretty cool. I like that. I know it wasn't like action-packed, but like, you know, Rogaldorn's like unyielding, defiant, and pretty cool. Love that. Big reveal, the Dark King. So this is my little thing about the Dark King. The Dark King, I always thought it was going to be Horus. I didn't really need the spoilers. I just kind of like assumed it was gonna be Horus. Like, that's the Dark King. That's you know, Horus, like, as his final form with all the 4 Chaos gods. And no, the Dark King's actually the Emperor. And that itself was like, when I read that moment, I'm like, woof. Like, it makes sense because, you know, the Emperor is the most powerful psyker of all of humanity, and if he got to take all that chaos energy of the warp, he could become the Dark King. So I thought that was a good reveal, good twist of things, and I was surprised that it was the Emperor. And you know, throughout the novel, they got tarot cards. It's like Lightning Tower. It's like, you know, the Angel, the Emperor, and the Dark King. And it's just like, dang. And then at the very end, of course, when, you know, Onus, Pius, John, like the Long Companions. I'm just gonna call them the Long Companions. I don't really say these words out loud, so they probably sound awful. Like, I probably like mispronounce them. But, like, these are, like, crazy names. Like, Olnus Pius, John Grammaticus. Like, these are fucking crazy names. And I'm like, I can say Vulcan, Malacordor. Anyway, that was a good reveal. That was pretty cool. And I enjoyed every moment of this book. And I'm trying to think of other things right now. The Astronomicon stuff, I mean, surprise, Cypher's there. I think one thing I have always said is that I'm like positive Corsoin is Cypher in the 31st millennium. That's just my kind of tidbit, because it'd be too easy to have Sephiroth. Yeah, see, these names are so hard to say. Zahariel is you know, Cypher, but I don't feel like it's him. I think it's Corson. But I thought that was, you know, it's good to go back and focus on them, because eventually they have to light the beacon. That's an important part. Other things is, you know, there's so much stuff. I mean, it's a big novel. It's beautiful. It's amazing. There's so many stories. I'm trying to think of, like, you know, it's to think of the rush of all the stories condensed from like 20, 30 years of lore into like this, you know, book itself at the last moments of the Emperor is pretty cool. And I'm trying to think of other things to talk about, like my opinions. I like having, you know, Abaddon and Loken's stories kind of beginning to, you know, end here. Obviously, Abaddon's story kind of begins here, but Loken's starting to end. I mean, he in volume part 1, he literally is chilling and hanging out at, you know, with Cindermen and some other Imperials, and they find the door, open the door, and that room is just a plot device. That library, and like, cause at one point you have the Thousand Suns captain Armon. He shows up and he's like, "Hey, I'm just here to collect knowledge, bro. Like, I don't care who wins at this point. I just need knowledge to defend the Thousand Suns." And just, you know, he like turns into like this like skeletal like dude with like black gums. That's pretty metal. And then obviously, I'm trying to think of other things. I thought one moment that was really kind of like chilling was when Abnett takes his, you know, 3 companies. They land the Vengeful Spirit. Oh, actually, no, they don't even land. They just get teleported. They're like, you know, the ship goes up, disappears, and then he's like, they leave the ship. And they're in like the Vengeful Spirit, and one of the, you know, Sons of Horus legionnaires was like, hey, why is it me, or did we just leave the colors of like, you know, the Lunar Wolves? And it's like, oh, that's eye chilling. It's so like callbacks are so good. I love callbacks. I love like that like sense of like uncertainty, even with like the chaos traitor forces, and enjoyed every moment of it. And I guess obviously want to know what those what Amon and Foe are creating. You know, we spend like so much time with him and the Chosen Xanthus and Andromeda 17, I think is her name, and I just want to know what the weapon is. And I think my gut feeling is that this weapon is like, you know, this weapon is just OP or something. It has to be something like insanely destructive, because they get access to like Malcador's secret lab. So either it destroys all of humanity, or like it kills the Emperor is where I'm thinking now at this point. I think it's going to destroy all of humanity. It's just, hey, it's a weapon to kill everyone. All humanity just is destroyed. It's like a bio weapon that takes out humanity itself, because I feel like that's like it has to be the reveal at this point, because it follows the Terminus decree or something like that. Anyway, other things. What else happens in the novel, in the book? So much happens in the novel. Sanguinus. Okay, yeah, no, that the ending fight is just brutal. Like I couldn't stop reading it, because, you know, for all of this entire series, for all these books, for all this lore, we've been told that Sanguinus is the best fighter of all of them. Like he can take on anyone. He's such a amazing fighter. He's one of the greatest warriors of the Imperium, and we just see him get destroyed. I mean, obviously, for the first, you know, few moments against Horus, he's like fighting Horus when he's cocky. He's getting blows. He's like taking his like pelt and all that stuff. And then the very last like pages is just, no, man, this guy is unstoppable now. He's channeling the powers of the war. He has all 4 Chaos Gods energy. Horus is unstoppable. And then we just see him getting shredded, like just torn apart. And it's pretty metal. At one point, like, you know, I give kudos to Dan, because Dan, his writing is so like personal, and like obviously we've been reading through Horus's viewpoint since part 1 about like, hey, you know you're so cocky, you're so arrogant, and the fact that he literally describes him killing Sanguinus as like hitting a disobedient dog is just like, what? And that shows you, like, obviously he's fallen way in the deep end of chaos. He's no longer Horus. He's just too power hungry. And I like the fact that, like, you know, there isn't like a moment of like grandstanding from Sanguinus where he says last words, because like, how can you give a last words when your lungs are full of blood, I think is the quote, and that's just metal. It's like you're expecting like this heroic last stand. It's like, no, he's just getting torn apart. He's getting grabbed by his ankle. He's just like getting thrown around. It's brutal, and that's just metal, man. And obviously, it's just when you're literally powered by the 4 Chaos Gods, you can kind of do whatever you want, and that's just yeah. It was a brutal reading, and I kind of want to. I'm excited because, you know, those are like literally the last pages. Like the last chapter of Volume 2 is literally called Death. And so, obviously, I want to see what happens, what creates the Black Rage. I know it's not over, because it's so sudden. It's just like, all right, that's it. He's dead. Boom. Goes to the cross. Gets, you know, put on there or whatever. Like, there has to be more. I think we get to talk about Sanguinus' soul. We get to see how his death impacts and affects all of his sons with all the Blood Angels. And you kind of see that a little bit throughout the novel. Like, all the Blood Angels are all quiet, they're all solemn, they're like, hey man, something bad is about to happen, like, I feel it in my bones, and we're probably gonna see them go through the Black Rage or something. Like, it's gonna be there. I mean, it's always been there. Like, I remember reading, you know, novels ago, that one experienced the Black Rage, and obviously we're gonna see that soon, so we're gonna see hundreds of thousands of Blood Angels go through the Black Rage. Maybe not hundreds of thousands, maybe like, you know, tens of thousands of blood angels going through the Black Rage on Terra and on the Vengeful Spirit. Other thoughts. Yeah, man, this is a crazy novel. Again, Doran, Count Valador, the Emperor, and like his moment of like he has all this power. It's so cool describing him with all of that power in like Black Sphere, and then suddenly he's like, you know what? You're right, Olnus. You're right. I shouldn't go in the deep end of the warp, even though I have to stop Horus. And he just gives all away that power. He just gives it up, and like I think they describe it as like snow, like all that air is of snow, like kilometers of snow, and then he like, boosts all of his homies up and cures all their ills and wills, and it's kind of, he gives like this like not like a scream, but like a calling for arms and to summon all the other folks, and that's how he gets Rogel Dorn, Constant Valador. Like I'm going over the place here because in a way you kind of have to, because time is always like there's so much to unpack from the book itself. But at the end of the day, I really like this novel. I thought this novel was one of the fun novels I've ever read. I like the fact that all the main storylines are coming together. Obviously, there's so much happening. There's so much that I know there's a lot of characters. I know there's that word bearer guy who's like loyal to the Emperor. He's still on Terra somehow. He got mentioned like once in Volume Part 1. I know there's a lot of like random characters that we haven't really closed yet. I mean, there's just so much, and that's like the best part. Like we don't know what's gonna happen. Again, Sigismund, Keller, they're all there. Like I think there's one part of the section of the novel near the end. Keller's like, I felt it too. I felt him call for help, then he disappeared, and that's like like the end is coming. So, woo, that's a lot unpacked, a lot to talk about. I liked the novel. I liked it. The Star Child stuff was phenomenal. Again, been reading lore for a long time, 20 plus years, and they mentioned the Star Child, like the fact that the Emperor gave his hope, his kindness, his like faith in humanity, just like let it go to fight Horus because he knows he doesn't need that. That's just the lore itself. I'm glad it's being respected. I know a lot of folks were worried. Like I was worried about the whole people on Reddit, classic Reddit. Reddit's like, oh man, like what if Sanguinus kills Horus and becomes like invested? Like I'm glad he didn't do that. I'm glad they stick with it. He's killed. He's martyred. When the Emperor finds him, maybe he actually does realize that Horus is lost. I know Horus is lost completely just because I read the chapter, but the Emperor hasn't met Horus yet since he's been first found. So now he has to, and when he sees Sanguinus all crucified and stuff, then that's when he's like, all right, I'm gonna go buckle up now. Yeah, just good stuff. No, it's so good. It's so good, and I'm excited to see what happens to Loken. I need to know if he makes it there so that he can write the iconic. And they mentioned it very briefly. I was there, the Emperor, when Horus slew the Emperor. I want to see that. I want that moment to be written, and so I can be like, oh, wow, wow. So obviously, it's exciting, man. This is some cool stuff. Obviously, this is near the end. We're at the end. Volume Part 3 comes out in January. I'm gonna try my best to get the special edition. I tried so hard. So tip for y'all, keep sure your notifications on. Otherwise, you're gonna pay like $300. I got this on Amazon for $45, $35, whatever. And I just wanted to get the last special edition, limited edition one. I have to get it. If I don't, that's fine. I got this one, Part 3, pre-ordered already on Amazon. And yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. If you read this, if you're interested in 40K, obviously. This is some of the coolest stuff we get to see, and we know Dan's cooking. He's going to be making more stuff in the future. He's going to be making so much more content, and it's an exciting time to be a 40K fan. And this is, in about a couple months, this will be the end. So, I keep saying the end, but it really is, man. 40K, Siege of Terra, Horus Heresy, the end is about to come, and it's crazy and surreal, and I appreciate every moment of it. So, I'm excited to see what else is going to be said, and I just want to read. I just want to read more. So I have a huge backlog. I have a lot more novels. I gotta read Commander Farsight's second novel. I still need to finish reading some the Dawn of Fire series. I think I need to read book 3 still, and yeah. Appreciate your time, y'all. It's your boy Kenny Boulder. You have a good night, and I'll see you around, y'all. Peace.